When God sends a chef to save the world, lessons in softness, strength, and sacred purpose. Today's insights come from someone extraordinary, someone who describes herself simply as just Vicky, sent by God to help him save the world. Chef Vikki McGee is not just feeding people, she's nourishing souls. She's transforming communities one meal at a time, one boundary at a time, one brave act of softness at a time. Her work reminds us that revolution doesn't always look like noise and fury. Sometimes it looks like a woman who knows her worth, protects her peace, and serves from overflow instead of depletion. Let's talk about something we don't discuss enough: softness. Not the kind of softness that gets you walked over, not the kind that makes you invisible or voiceless or small. I'm talking about the kind of softness that takes more courage than any armor you've ever worn. The kind that says, I've survived enough. Now I'm going to live. Because here's what nobody tells you when you're busy being strong: strength without rest is just slow destruction. And for too many of us, especially Black women who've been taught that resilience is our birthright and exhaustion is our inheritance, we've confused survival with living. We've made a home out of holding it all together. We've turned our backs into bridges for everyone else to cross while we drown beneath the weight. The soft girl era isn't about giving up, it's about waking up. Let me paint you a picture. There's a woman. Maybe you know her, maybe you are her. She wakes up before the sun does because there's always something that needs her attention before she can even think about what she needs. She makes breakfast, she answers emails, she shows up, she performs, she leads meetings, she solves problems, she holds space for everyone else's emotions while her own sit in her chest like stones she's been swallowing for decades. She's the one people call when things fall apart because she always knows what to do. She's the glue, the backbone, the steady hand. And she wears it like a badge of honor because that's what she was taught. Be strong, don't complain, don't cry, don't ask for help. Don't be too much or too little or too anything that makes people uncomfortable. And somewhere along the way, she forgot that she's human, that she's allowed to be tired, that she's allowed to say no, that she's allowed to want something different, that softness isn't surrender, it's survival. Here's the truth we don't say out loud enough: the world has been taking from Black women for centuries our labor, our bodies, our brilliance, our care. And we've been conditioned to believe that giving until we're empty is noble, that sacrifice without boundaries is love, that rest is laziness and softness is weakness. But what if we've had it backwards this whole time? What if softness is the most radical thing we can do? What if saying no is an act of revolution? What if choosing rest is choosing life? Because when you've spent your whole existence in survival mode, peace feels like rebellion. Joy feels dangerous. Softness feels like you're doing something wrong, but you're not. Let me tell you about a woman who built an entire career on being indispensable. She was the go to person in her organization, the one who stayed late, the one who took on extra projects, the one who never said no because she believed her value was tied to her productivity. She believed that if she stopped moving, she'd stop mattering. And then one day, her body said enough. Chronic migraines, insomnia, anxiety that felt like drowning. She couldn't ignore it anymore. The cape she'd been wearing was crushing her, so she made a choice. She started saying no, not with anger or resentment, but with clarity. She started protecting her time like it was sacred because it is. She started asking herself a question before every commitment: is this nourishing me or depleting me? And you know what happened? The world didn't fall apart. Her relationships didn't crumble. She didn't become irrelevant. Instead, she became more present, more intentional, more whole. She discovered that her value wasn't in what she could do for others, it was in who she was when she stopped performing. That's the soft girl era. That's the shift. Now, let's talk about another woman. She spent years in a relationship where she was the emotional manager, the peacekeeper, the one who apologized even when she wasn't wrong because keeping the peace felt safer than speaking the truth. She dimmed her light. She silenced her voice. She made herself smaller because she thought that's what love required. But love that requires you to disappear isn't love, it's erasure. It took her years to realize that, years to understand that boundaries aren't walls, they're invitations. They say, this is who I am. This is what I need. This is how you can love me well. And if someone can't respect that, they don't get access to you. She started speaking up. She started asking for what she needed. She started walking away from spaces that didn't honor her. And it was terrifying because when you've spent your whole life contorting yourself to fit into other people's expectations, choosing yourself feels like betrayal. But it's not betrayal, it's freedom. And she lost some people along the way, and that hurt. But she gained something more valuable: herself, her voice, her peace, her joy. The version of her that had been buried under years of people pleasing and self abandonment. That's what the soft girl era offers: the permission to choose yourself without apology. Here's what I want you to understand: softness doesn't mean you stop being powerful, it means you stop being performative. It means you lead from a place of wholeness instead of woundedness. It means you stop using your strength to prove your worth and start using it to protect your peace. Because the truth is, you were never supposed to carry it all. You were never supposed to be everyone's savior. You were never supposed to sacrifice yourself on the altar of other people's comfort. You were supposed to live, to rest, to feel joy without guilt, to take up space without shrinking, to be soft without being sorry. Let me tell you about one more woman. She was a leader in her community. Everyone looked up to her. She was the one who organized events, showed up for every crisis, volunteered for every cause. She was everywhere, all the time, for everyone except herself. She didn't realize how empty she was until she had nothing left to give. She hit a wall, not a breakdown, but a wake up call. She looked at her life and realized she didn't recognize herself anymore. She'd become a collection of roles and responsibilities, but she lost the essence of who she was. So she did something radical. She stepped back. She resigned from committees. She stopped volunteering for things that drained her. She started saying, I need time to rest. I need time to heal. I need time to remember who I am outside of what I do. And people were shocked. Some were supportive, some were disappointed, some made her feel guilty for choosing herself. But here's what she learned: other people's disappointment is not your responsibility. Their discomfort with your boundaries is not your burden to carry. Your rest is not up for negotiation. She started filling her own cup first. She started doing things that brought her joy. She started protecting her energy like it was the most valuable thing she owned, because it is. And slowly, she came back to life. Not the version of her that everyone needed, the version of her that she'd been missing. That's the soft girl era. That's the reclamation. Now I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds nice, but I have real responsibilities. I have people depending on me. I can't just check out and focus on myself. And I hear you. But here's the thing: taking care of yourself isn't checking out, it's checking in. It's making sure you're whole enough to show up in the ways that matter, because you can't pour from an empty cup and you can't lead from a depleted spirit. Softness isn't about abandoning responsibility, it's about redefining it. It's about understanding that your first responsibility is to yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a sustainable way. Because when you're running on fumes, everyone around you suffers. When you're operating from overflow, everyone benefits. Here's what the soft girl era really is: it's the sacred pause, it's the moment when you stop running and start breathing, it's the moment when you stop performing and start being. It's the moment when you realize that you don't have to earn your worth, you don't have to prove your value, and you don't have to sacrifice your peace to be loved. It's the moment when you choose yourself, not because you're selfish, not because you're weak, but because you're finally strong enough to know that you matter. And that changes everything. Because when you start honoring yourself, you teach others how to honor you. When you start protecting your peace, you create space for joy. And when you start saying no to what depletes you, you make room for what nourishes you. And here's the beautiful part: when you step into your soft girl era, you give other women permission to do the same. You become a living example of what's possible when you stop surviving and start thriving. You become proof that softness isn't weakness, it's wisdom. So let me ask you something. What would your life look like if you stopped carrying what was never yours to carry? What would change if you released the roles that no longer fit? What would open up if you protected your peace as fiercely as you protect everyone else's? What if your soft girl era is the most powerful thing you'll ever do? Chef Vikki said it best: I'm just Vikki sent by God to help him save the world. And maybe that's the secret. Maybe saving the world starts with saving yourself. Maybe changing the world starts with changing how you show up in it. Maybe revolution looks like a woman who finally understands that her rest is resistance, her boundaries are sacred, and her softness is strength. So here's my challenge to you: not tomorrow, not next week, right now. I want you to think about one thing you're carrying that you need to put down, one role you're playing that's costing you your peace, one boundary you need to set that you've been avoiding, one thing you need to say no to so you can say yes to yourself. And then I want you to do something terrifying and liberating. I want you to let it go. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for the perfect time. Stop waiting until everyone else is okay, because they'll never be ready for you to choose yourself. But you don't need their approval, you need your own. Your soft girl era is waiting, not someday, today, right now, in this moment. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to make a grand announcement. You just have to take one step towards yourself, one boundary, one no, one moment of rest, one act of softness, and then another and another, until softness becomes your default, until rest becomes your rhythm, until choosing yourself becomes second nature, because the world doesn't need another exhausted woman pretending she's fine. The world needs you, whole, rested, soft, and free. The world needs the version of you that's been waiting beneath all that armor. The world needs your joy, your peace, your authentic voice. So drop the cape, set the boundary, take the rest, choose the softness. Your soft girl era isn't just about you, it's about every woman watching you, waiting for permission to do the same. It's about breaking generational cycles of self sacrifice. It's about creating a new legacy where Black women aren't defined by how much they can endure, but by how fully they can live. This is your invitation. This is your permission. This is your moment. Now go be soft, go be free, go be whole. The world is waiting for the real you.